This is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, this is insane.
Nightmare fuel. Should I go into it?
No.
Murph, I feel like I have, what are they calling it? Restless anal syndrome. Thanks to what we're dealing with.
Is that a real thing?
It is. It is actually.
It is now.
Let's just boil it down succinctly for you. Our typical split stream software apparently is having an internal server error that doesn't even allow me to contact their support. So now we're using Streamlabs to stream, but Streamlabs forgot almost everything I taught it. So I had to throw this together in like 10 minutes, and we have a guest now who can't even see us. So would you like to introduce your friend, Popp?
All right, first of all, this individual I've known since 1991 when he was in Special Forces selection with me. He's a former long tabber like I am, and he went on. He did not retire from the military. He did, I think, 2 enlistments and said, "Suck my balls," and he went on to do great things. His name is John Orban. And he is a CEO of. Hey, John, fill us in on what company you're running right now.
All right. So just for clarification, I got out early in Special Forces.
Okay.
I don't have the pedigree that Popp has or a lot of the other guys. Always tip of the hat for them, but everybody's going to make their own decisions on how they're best serving their community, what's best for them. But I got out. Worked in investment banking for a little while and medical devices, found a way to fund some medical device companies. And I had the background of going to the program for the team docs, which was about 2 years long. So a lot of meatball surgery, some meds blocks, and then figured out an algorithm around financing, turned that to a software company called Third Pillar, ran that for about 12 years. And it was a platform for commercial lending and leasing.
Uh-huh.
And then I was the CEO of GeneSol for about 3 years, sold that, started a company called Integrated Genetic Solutions. I've been the CEO of that. Had a couple other ideas that I was the founder of and funded. One was called the Manhattan Library Project.
Uh-huh.
And really simply what we would do is compare people that had survived viruses. And this is before COVID, but imagine you had 100 people that were very low response on IgG and IgM and almost no symptoms. We would try to find a commonality of what was in their plasma. So instead of just giving someone convalescent serum where you give them all the plasma, instead of getting the whole stew, we were just looking for the carrots and the celery. And by comparing all the people and see what they had in common, we could narrow that down dramatically. And you do that with all viruses. So,
well, you said IgG. What is that?
Yeah. So there's 3 primary types of antibodies, and without getting this too much, one is IgA, and that's what you have in the mucosal lining. So your mouth, your nose, your eyes. That's really like your first line of defense, but it also drops viral load if you're carrying it with other people. Then you have IgM, which is, if you kind of imagine like this would be your buffer. So I don't even know if it's there anymore, but the 8th Infantry Division that was in Germany that was supposed to slow down the Soviet Union, kind of like a speed bump. And then IgG is that, and basically T cell production are going to have a big impact on killing viruses in your system. And all that goes into B cell memory. So once you've done it once and you had that B cell memory, you're able to produce those again. So the idea is that we're looking at people that had, for whatever reason, it could be genetic, and we really don't know all the reasons why. We just know that there's certain people that have very low responses. So it's like a sniper shot on certain viruses. For whatever reason, their system's very attuned to it. We'd find out what those were, and the goal is to manufacture what they call monoclonal and polyclonal antibodies in a test tube to put it into other people. And there's a little bit of a genetic piece where different people are going to respond to different therapies. So you're looking back to see the comparative analysis of what patient is coming in to their genetic type to the overlaps. So if you had 1,000 people and you had 100 that were very similar to the person coming in, you're going to use the monoclonal and polyclonal antibodies, that therapy that's more adjacent to their genetic types. More to come on that for sure. But that's I had that idea, put some things together, funded it, got some people working on it. But my primary focus is IGS right now, integrated genetic solutions.
All right.
There's
So
other things like that in the medical space.
for the record, are you an anti-vaxxer?
Oh no, not at all. I'm actually very pro-vax for sure. It's do I think all medicines should be used for all people? No. So do I think that every person should have every vaccination out there? No, but polio, pretty good idea for everybody to get that, for sure. But would I give a vaccination for a virus that only affected 1/1000th of the population on an unknown island? Well, back in the military, Popp, if you were going there, I'd take you down and you'd roll up your sleeve and we would shoot your arm before you went there for sure. So
many times I've had that happen.
Yeah, most people in the military, they've been deployed or whatever. You're carrying a tremendous amount of either B cell memory or viruses that you've been exposed to or vaccinations, or you'll carry certain antibodies forever. So when you get vaccinated, carry some of them forever, but other ones you require a booster later on because the level of antibodies drop with time. You still have B cell memory, and as long as you're healthy, your body, once it recognizes the virus, it will basically start producing antibodies associated with it. Even if it's not the exact virus, you have overlapping immunity. So you'll probably have several forms of overlapping immunity where those vaccines kick in. So, overall, vaccines are, if you look back in the last 100 years, vaccines, birth control, antibiotics, different types of surgical tools, have all transformed medicine in a really positive way.
Yeah, I understand. Now, my situation is this. I had to take the anthrax vaccines for the first and the second Gulf War.
Sure.
Okay. Now, when I go to the VA, there's all kinds of programs in place and studies, and they're actually looking at the long-term effects from those anthrax vaccines that were not approved at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those are quite substantial, like ALS, MS, tumors, cancer, the works, type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. So, sudden onsets. So, I just, before we started the stream, I told you about the tumor I had cut off my spine, and that was very unpleasant. But it had not.
When are we going to cut the tumor off above your neck?
Yeah. Well, one day I'm sure that'll happen, but
yeah,
hopefully long after I'm done using it.
Well, that's
that was a year ago, but okay, that's fine.
All right, so
Wah, wah, wah.
my buddy John here is one of those 30-pound brain motherfuckers who hovers way up here, and he flips switches and knows what the hell's going on. But what he didn't know is when we both went to selection was how to mug people.
How to what?
We mug some people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, we're in
Teaching dudes how to steal wallets. Come over here, you fucker.
No. We're in selection for it's a week, 4 or 5 days, something like that.
It was halfway. It was into team phase.
Yeah. So he literally comes out and he's looking at me, and he's got this look on his face, and because they told us to eat, and I'm eating my MRE, and he doesn't have any food. I'm like, "Hey, where's your food, bro?" And he's just like, "Somebody stole all my food." So I'm like, "Well, that's fucked up." So I give him half of my food, and then he's like, "Hey, Pop, well, what are we gonna eat later when we run out of food?" I'm like, "Pop ain't starving." So literally every night people would quit. So I would literally wait. I was right by the door, and I'd hear somebody packing up their stuff, and they're walking out, and I'd go down in front of the door, and I'm like, "Hey, man, where you going?" It's like, "Well, I decided this isn't for me, and I'm going to go. I'm punching out." Okay. Leave the food on the floor. And they're like, they said I have to turn it in. Well, we're telling you, you're not gonna.
Yeah, this is not a debate. Why don't you think this is a negotiation?
So the guy slowly sets the food down and just walks out, and then we rat fuck it. I think we robbed like 4 or 5 people, but
Yeah.
before it was all said and done.
My understanding was that's all under surveillance. They watch everything, and I think they're looking to see what the group's reaction is when someone's food disappears. I can't say that with certainty, but I was told that later on by somebody else that actually did everything and
Yeah.
did it for the long haul.
But,
I think he did rotation, but I grew up going to private schools, and Terrence Popp went to a private school called 8 Mile in Detroit, which is very different. So number one, with Terrence, I learned how to mug someone, and then number 2, I learned how to dumpster dive. Never thought I'd be doing that, but we're walking past a dumpster, and
You're just describing Pop's dating life.
now they have a rule where if you've got any sort of mold on one piece, tiny, it can be this big, they have to throw the whole loaf out just because they don't want to mess up the soldiers. So they're still feeding some people in the chow hall. So Terrence just looked at me and threw me his weapon, just jumped in. I was like, what the heck is he doing? And then I look in there and he's just stuffing the bread in his mouth and his pockets. And I'm like, move over. Like, I never thought I would be dumpster diving, but you got to do what you got to do.
That's right, man. Listen, I'm all about mission completion. I'm not about permission or any of that horse shit.
Yeah, they actually did. I don't know if you remember this, but they cheek swabbed all of us right when they showed up for the shakedown.
Yeah,
to make sure they didn't have any contraband or food or whatever.
Which I did.
And they found a couple things they were looking for. They were trying to see what was the genetic difference between someone who made it through and someone who didn't. And one of the things they found was the neural peptide Y mutation. And if I'm remembering this correctly, a vast majority of people that got through had a double neural peptide Y. And I think they did something afterwards. I heard from a friend named Mike called the Trojan Warrior Program, where they were measuring things like not just testosterone, but how it aromatized into estrogen, the types of estrogens. And as you can imagine, the people that went through, that got through, just had higher levels of testosterone, but they were converting more slowly into the type of estrogens which you don't want, which make you more moody, because obviously under pressure, your testosterone is going to convert faster. And if you look at bodybuilders don't have testosterone rage. They're basically PMSing because we're bringing more and more of that testosterone to E4 and E15, E16, which is what's associated with PMS. Versus E2. So there was a whole bunch of interesting things that came out. It was a kind of a petri dish to see what was the type of person that got through, who was the type of personality. And there was a lot of different things. It was nature and nurture, right? Like you had to have something that put you in that I'm just not going to quit no matter what happens mode, and all the hilarious stuff that came from that. We can look back and laugh, but I got to tell you that selection was horrific. That was hard.
Remember?
The guys did.
We were both on crutches.
Through. Yeah, you were. So afterwards, no one knew this, but Terrence had this thing that was growing on the back of his calf. And by the time it was all said and done, this thing was like the size of a golf ball. And we're punching this thing, thinking like that's how you get rid of it. He had a deep vein thrombosis. He had a DVT, which is the worst thing. You're supposed to immobilize somebody. So we took him into the hospital afterwards. And they immobilized him. They put him on, I think it was heparin back then, but they had an IV in him. And they immobilized him for a period of time. But, he had a peg leg for a while because after that swole up, his knee didn't move anymore. And the last road march. There's no land now. I don't know, it was like 20 miles or 30 miles. It's like follow the chem lights in the middle of the night.
28 miles.
Wow.
How far is it?
28.
28? Yeah, that sounds about right. But I just remember you coming in like hours after me, which was shocking because you were in insanely good shape. But like you were just like dragging one of your legs behind you, and then the other leg started to fail because everything was like, one wheel's out of alignment and the other ones start to fade off. But that was some good stuff. Laugh now, but man, at the time that was pretty hard.
Yeah. But hey, It is what it is. I wasn't gonna fail. God damn it.
It is
Nope.
what it is.
Nope. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're too busy stuffing things in your mouth to fail.
Oh man.
After stuffing king dongs, bread, dumpster diving for
Yeah.
hogs.
Hey,
So
look, man.
not to get too off the subject, I got to tell you guys this story. This is pretty fun.
Go for it.
I know I'm on here to answer some questions, but just one more funny story. So Terrence called me up right after he graduated from school, didn't even complete the sentence. And I was running this investment banking division, really small division, second tier bank. And you didn't need to complete the sentence. I was like, yeah, come on down. You got a job waiting for you. And, two funny things. I think he got there like on a Tuesday and processed it on a Wednesday or Thursday. So I said, like, okay, here's your first project, get it done. I'll be back Friday or Monday. I have to go up to New York. So I come back and the people up front pulled me aside and like, that guy hasn't gone home yet. And I'm like, oh. So I pulled Terrence aside and he's wearing the same clothes and everything else. He's got a little bed of pizza boxes underneath his desk. And I'm like, he's like, I'm almost got it done. I'm like, okay, so we'll
I can
talk
picture it.
He gets it done. I'm like, so great job on the project, first thing, so on and so forth, kind of laying out what we're going to do. And I explained to him, like, well, walk me through why you haven't gone home. He's like, well, you told me to get it done. I'm like, right. Okay. It's a little bit different here in the civilian world. You can do it when like, you put a pair of underpants and a shirt in your drawer, but like, you can't live here. Like, he had a pretty bad apartment. Maybe it was better for him to live there. The other moment was he was in such a bad apartment. He would frequently stay at my place, especially when I was traveling. Whenever I'd walk in the door, he would literally have a giant thing of cookie dough. It was like Pillsbury. And he was just eating the entire cookie dough. And I was just like, as a science dork, I was just like, I just can't even imagine this. He's like drinking Coke and eating cookie dough straight. And I'm like, all right, that's great. We're going to run at 4:30 tomorrow morning. Hope you're feeling up for that. And he always showed up even when he suffered.
I remember he looks at me and he goes, I can hear you getting fatter. I still use that. That's comedy gold, man.
I'm not sure if you're on the 65 and out plan or if just the fact that you're still here proves that you're going to outlive us all.
Yeah, all the preservatives in there, right?
Yeah. And you were married to your first wife at the time, I believe.
Yeah, she was a big fan of yours.
Yeah. She hated my guts.
Oh, was he the first one you tried out your refrigerator box line on?
No. But she just would just tongue lash him to death. So like she'd be looking at him, yell, and I'd be behind her looking over her shoulder going and like he would he's like trying to be all serious with her and like not laugh at the same time because I'm sabotaging the whole thing from behind her back. It's
it needed to be sabotaged. That wasn't gonna work. But like literally it was an accelerator. Like if you see someone with personality disorder, they always talk about these things that are like the break point for them, the catalyst. Terrence was literally the break point for her. I mean, like, she was a consultant, so she would leave on Sunday or Mondays and come back on Fridays. And the things that she would get upset over, I mean, it was more to come, but that was the writing on the wall right there. Good times. Good times.
It is what it is. Women are crazy. That's why I'm never getting married again.
We all are. Just pick your poison.
Yeah, I gotcha. So you do your business now is geared towards helping individuals maintain their hormone panel and keep themselves healthy. Is that?
That's the primary business for sure. I did a little consulting work as well. Helping some people get something up and running that I think is turning out really well. It's helping a lot of people as well. But the long and short, I was in a bike accident. I got run over by a car about 12 years ago, somewhere in there. And running over is not the right term. I was hit by a car and then it grazed me again. It wasn't like the wheels went over me, but I had 17 external pins holding the left side of my body together.
Jesus.
And some internal plates and screws. And they thought it was going to be 6 months in there. At a really great coach, kind of Soviet era cycling guy. He took the left pedal off. And I was pedaling with my right leg for a while, and he'd put ice packs and fans all over me to try to keep my core temperature down, because you can't sweat with external pins, because if you have a staph or a MRSA bug and it goes down that pin with the sweat, like that bone or that arm where you die too. There's no antibiotic that's going to stop that bone infection. So tons of just base work, like the heart rate, like 110, 120, pick me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So what they found was people that remain active recover much faster from these things, which is great. They also, there's some studies on this. This is not on me, but pertained, like I was doing things with my right shoulder, my right arm, and it made my left shoulder come back faster. But I had to do rehab and had to learn how to pick up a key again with my left hand. Had to, there was literally no movement in it. So went through all that. But what ended up happening was, like, I had done what I refer to as the stupidest races in the world, kind of back to back. One of them was the Texas Water Safari, which is dubbed the world's toughest boat race. I think it's 150 miles or 250 miles, and they do it in July in Texas, which is just a horrible idea. So I did it 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah. Marathon of Sables, which is kind of about, I don't want to say it's a marathon a day, but it's close. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you carry everything but your own water for a week. And then somewhere there's a 50-miler. So I was in pretty good shape. And after the rehab, I was actually producing less and less power on the bike at threshold, and just got weaker and weaker to the point where, like, I'd try to run for 10 minutes, I'd be exhausted, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. The short story is I had a whole bunch of genetic switches that were turned the wrong direction. So there was a great study done on Rangers before and after Ranger school. And from the wrong type of stress, not the type of stress you want your body to adapt to, like cold therapy or hot therapy or weight training or aerobic therapy, the stress was, you think about like malnutrition, you think about lack of sleep, all those things were kicking in. So once I figured that out, I was like, well, how do you solve this? And I started looking at my blood labs. Now, when I was trained, I was at Reynolds Hospital, the emergency room. We only looked for values that were outside of normal limits. And that sounds like if you're within normal limits, you should be fine. But that's really inaccurate. What it really means is you have this goalpost of 95% in between with 2.5% on either side. So you could be in the third percentile of something like vitamin D or vitamin B9 or testosterone or FSH or LH. And you'd be within normal limits. But imagine you had a kid and they came back and they were the third percentiles of the SATs. You'd be like, how did you do that poorly? Vitamins, minerals, electrolytes. I pushed all those things to the 80th percentile and started doing really good, really fast. And within about 2 weeks, I was back to training. 6 weeks, I was racing again. 6 months later, I was really back in the middle of it. So started doing more analysis and thinking about how much people are affected, maybe not that much of a draconian scale, but it's really multivariate. So the issue is most of the time when people go into a physician and they say, if you look at the top 10 complaints for a primary care physician, 7 of them are white noise symptoms. I'm tired all the time. I'm putting on body fat. I don't retain muscle. Workouts don't do anything for me. I have brain fog. I don't sleep well. I'm not getting along with my significant other because I'm moody and I'm antagonistic. Most physicians have more salads, go to the gym, and sleep better, have better sleep hygiene, but that obviously doesn't work. The problem is that you're asking them to look at something that is not only multivariate, but so subtle it probably wouldn't be noticed. So even people that are in the 40th or 50th percentile for something like vitamin D that you read about all the time, and by age and gender, you need to be specific. Information coming from the FDA and NIH on stuff. So I'm going to use just a general number of 80. Even if you have a vitamin D level of 50, you're probably going to have microscopic symptoms associated with rickets. Very, very small. But if you have a B9 deficiency, that's very, very small. And you end up 20 different things, 30 different things. They all add up. So if you look at a lot of vitamin, mineral, electrolyte, things of that nature, those deficiencies, one of them happens to be fatigue. So it's all like little pebbles on the scale until the scale goes the wrong direction. Genetic switches start to go the wrong direction. And that's why people don't feel better right away. And they may feel a little bit better in a day or two, but really it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for those genetic switches to kick back in. So we figure out where you're supposed to be by age and gender. We see where the blood labs come in. We figure out the difference. We give a recommendation to the healthcare provider, and then there's a third-party company that can deliver that to them in kind of just one bottle. It's not our company. There's a couple of them out there that do basically pharmaceutical grade. So everything someone will need for 90 days, but it comes in one bottle.
Now, one of your possible, candidates for this, and we talked about it the other day. You said you had Mike Tyson thinking about coming in or something.
Yeah, I met Mike Tyson, but he was for one of the companies that I funded, and I could come up with the idea. He was talking about coming in and having some PRP work, and I don't want to get into it just because
I know HIPAA and all that shit. I got you.
Well, it's also just like personal stuff of what he's having done and what he's doing with his life. So,
no, I got you.
Really nice guy. Really nice guy. He's a very different person than how I knew him from interviews 20 years ago. I didn't know him personally, obviously, but really very tons of gratitude, very positive person. But you stand next to the guy. Wow, is that guy an athlete?
Yeah.
His waist of muscle must be 40 inches around.
Wow.
It's extraordinary. His power base is just exceptional.
Yeah. Holy shit. Wow. So, I know you're not an anti-vaxxer, but you are a pro-freedom kind of guy. You're like me.
Sure.
And I remember we talked in regards to you put together a program with, which is it, Beechtree Molecular, to do the PCR testings and so forth for individuals who just want to do that route instead of do the vaccine route. I mean, and
I think I know where you're going with this. And, right now there's a mandate coming down the pipe. And I was a betting man. Life's a series of probabilities. You never know for sure. But I think we're going to see some form of employers requiring either vaccination or testing. And, there's a choice to be had there. Although I am not an anti-vaxxer at all, if someone decides they're not going to get vaccinated, they probably, actually, I take that back. Everybody should get tested. And here's the reason why. The vaccines that are on the market right now, and this is a non-technical term, are referred to as leaky. So I'm going to oversimplify, bifurcate these two. There's one type of vaccine that's designed to kill a virus. There's another type which basically mutes the response of the recipient of the vaccine. So if we really didn't know when the vaccines first came out, and there was different theories as to whether or not it would slow the spread. And the biggest one was dropping the viral load, meaning like how much someone had. But reading the literature, I don't see anything that affects the IgA. And once again, that's the antibodies that are in the mucus. So the concern would be, and this is somewhat theoretical because there have been no long-term studies on this, if someone had the virus, but they also had the vaccine and the symptoms were so muted, they were carrying it around. And I'll give you a historical reference. Typhoid Mary. She is known as being the person that basically, unbeknownst to her, she had no symptoms whatsoever. She gave typhoid to dozens of people, and they tracked it down. And it's really worth looking up on the web. It's an interesting use case.
I'm totally familiar with it. They had her living the last 30 years of her life. She was isolated, and it's kind of shitty.
It's a rough story. It's a rough story for sure.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, you put together a program so individuals won't get killed with the costs if they want to do the testing, because that because that $150 a pop, having that done once a week is, for an average person, is a significant expense. And you put it together so it could be done for a free to a deep discount, I believe.
Yeah, and to be clear, it wasn't me to put. I mean, they picked my brain, right? Which is fine. I'm happy to. They put together a program. Their legal team and their insurance team and the payments team and everybody else. I know the people there. They asked my opinion on some things, but they did three things really well. One, they set it up so employers, employees, students, teachers, schools don't pay anything for PCR testing, not antigen testing, because antigen testing is remarkably inaccurate to begin with. It's known as the rapid test, and it used to be much faster, but they're doing PCR tests in 24 hours or under, which there is no to the antigen testing. But the biggest piece is with insurance coverage, HRSA, the CARE Act, no one's out any money. So to not get tested, whether you believe in vaccines or not, is somewhat reckless, in my opinion, because you could be someone like a typhoid Mary that carries the virus.
Yeah.
And, the last thing I'd want to do is go to someone's house and infect their gam and kill them.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The problem to date is PCR testing has been expensive and slow. There's been no app assigned to it. So that lab put together really a first class. It's 100% automated. I walked through it. It was very impressive, really impressive team there. Okay. So, their mandate is to go to groups like the U.S. Navy, state of Alaska, Border Patrol, for everyone coming across the border right now. They're doing large corporations, I think 30 different schools, systems, not just schools.
Well, what I want to do is get this information out to everyone that, in earshot of my show. And I actually communicate with virtually all of the patriot groups in the United States and a boatload of the militia groups. Plus, there's a lot of other groups that watch my stuff, and for them to have access to getting this testing done for virtually nothing will go a long way to helping them out.
Yeah, it is zero. So, different people have different opinions on the vaccine, and I always invite that conversation because, in the beginning we thought that the vaccine would slow the spread, and that does not appear to be the case right now. We'll see longer term, but it does help people, in my opinion, at risk. But the piece about testing is if you can put, the original mandates around testing were designed to slow the spread. So if you had testing everywhere, and it wasn't antigen, it was PCR testing. So you don't even have any symptoms yet, and you can control it. That's how you truly flatten the curve, and you give people a chance to lower their load and have a lower response. So if I'm around 5 people that are in day 4, I'm going to have a much larger reaction than if I'm just around 1 person on day 1. So if you have a family that goes to visit Gam and they're asymptomatic, they haven't, it's too early, Gam is going to have a much tougher time with that because the viral load's so much higher. So getting tested is a huge advantage. So
otherwise, you're just blowing your load on Gam.
Yeah.
And that's how you go to jail.
Have you ever seen Terrence's Gam? Just saying.
I've seen his mom. She's got the same haircut.
Yeah. Yeah.
From behind, you can't tell the difference. Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to put together a way. I'll probably put it up on my website. They click on it. It'll take them directly to the program, and we can get people hooked up and get them tested.
Yeah, because this is an unconstitutional mandate, and inevitably it will be defeated in court. But thanks to the IAU, it's going to be a long, slow, arduous, bureaucratic process.
That's absolutely correct.
And especially with the current Supreme Court as it exists, you can't even count on them to do the right thing. So
yeah, you're absolutely correct.
You have to hedge your bets when and where you can.
Yeah, so I'm going to put this together so we could get this information out to all of America, and then they can make the decision if they want to test or not.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, to me, if it's available, it's not like someone shoving something up your nose anymore. It's spit. If it's free and it's available at schools and employers, I just can't. It's hard. I'd love to have a conversation with somebody to hear why they don't think it's a good idea. And there's probably ideas I've not contemplated.
The PCR test has its own problems, and we've covered that numerous times on the show. But
A lot of those
It's
have been mitigated though.
but when you're talking about that versus potential long-term problems,
Yeah.
you get what you get. I mean, hey, worst that could happen is false positive. You get a couple weeks off of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, so the false positive piece, that's been mitigated by automation. You know, the lab that I walked through, I didn't see anybody with a pipette in there. And that's why they're able to turn it in 12 to 24 hours. You know, their guarantee is 24 hours. I shouldn't say guarantee, but their mandate is 24 hours and under. Before, when you had pipettes, you'd see a lot of false positives because you had cross contamination. I mean, there was a whole myriad of issues around it. But you look at the false positive, false negative comparative for antigen testing, which a lot of states offer for free in schools, that is slightly better than the flip of a coin.
Wow.
It's that inaccurate. That's why if you look at any of, like, for example, if you're, I don't know if it's still happening, but when you're trying to fly to Hawaii for a period of time, you couldn't fly in without a PCR test because they just looked at the antigen. It's like, you're only confirming a diagnosis. The bomb's already gone off. We're looking to catch people before they have symptoms, right? So back then it took 3 to 5 days. And part of it was because it wasn't automated. So part of the problem when you have human intervention is your error rate goes through the roof. And I think the difference between automation and human intervention is just slightly less than 3%. But going back to what you said about false positives, you know, it's where there's smoke, there's fire type thing. So to give you an example, if you're doing false positives for like an STD test of some kind, like for chlamydia, and you did it in Pennsylvania, and you included Philadelphia, but you also included some of the rural areas with the Amish where they totally cut themselves off. Your false positive, you had an overall false positive rate of 10%, it would be actually much higher if you just cut out that group of Amish, which means the false positive is much lower when you look at, like, say, downtown Philadelphia, because you're just much more likely to have it. So now the PCR testing is radically higher. That 3% is a huge, huge swing in terms of accuracy and also timing as well. But, you know, there's two pieces to this, and I want to go back to what you said before. I think it's really, really relevant. One is the technical side of it, and the other is, and we put it, the efficiency side. And there's a third side, which is moral and ethical. And we probably touch on that too. But the first side is technically, even if you're right, you can go broke if you're on the wrong side of just fighting with someone. You can win and still lose. I mean, I think without getting into politics, we've seen people on the both right and the left that were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars defending themselves. And congratulations, you're not guilty. Mm-hmm. But how do you get those hundreds of thousands of dollars back? You can't, because the people who sued you have qualified immunity. You can't go after them personally for malice.
That needs to change.
So that, yeah, I mean, that's a huge conversation, right? And it's a really good one to have. The second piece is simply efficiency. If you could do testing for the flu, and I'm just using it as an example, during the flu season, and it was free, and it was so simple where somebody could just spit on something, you could remove that person before they were symptomatic and before they came into work. So instead of waiting for someone to start showing signs and symptoms, you could tell them not to come to work on Monday. Your efficiency for your own corporation goes through the roof. Yeah. And it's just a win. And I think the third bucket, and this is a part where I'd put this up for what you guys think for sure, but I think there's a moral and ethical piece to it, where if someone's saying, I'm going to get on this flight, here's a free PCR test. It's so easy. My kid brought it home from school and I can get tested too as a parent, or my employer's offering it. Why wouldn't you do it? And I haven't heard a really good answer, but it almost seems sociopathic not to, if you know you're going to an event where you can basically expose people that are at risk. Now, there's another argument, like, should Gam get on the plane at all? I mean, that's another conversation, but I don't know, what do you guys think about the moral and ethical side?
Well, I myself, I am totally cool with people getting tested if they want. And
why is that?
Well, I was against the testing when it was $150 to have done once a week. That's $600 a month. That is
A lot of people.
Unbelievable. That's crazy. But if it's free, there is no obstacle anymore. Get the tests.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, false positive means vacation, winning.
I guess I'll ask you guys this question because I mean, you guys talk to a lot of people. Have you heard a moral or ethical reason not to get a PCR test if it was free?
I have.
That's if it's free. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, well, I've not heard of a reason why, or an ethical reason why not to get tested. Listen. I mean, if it's a double E discount, you got to spit in a little ampule, and you'll find out in 24 hours or less if you're carrying the virus. What's the downside?
Yeah, especially as long as I'm not getting nose rapade, because that's some uncomfortable shit.
That was rough. I mean, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that was rough. And we had some conversations. I mean, the other piece is if you look at the different treatment protocols that are in place, and there's a lot of conversation about, what works and what doesn't.
Hang on. We can't really go into a lot of the treatment protocols.
I get it. It's just a general thing. I'm going to say you're going to hospital. Okay. And we'll leave it at that.
All right.
Don't want to talk about anything that's controversial, but if you know you're positive up front, and I'm going to give you an example. It's a bifurcation, 0-1. And everyone knows like multivariant, multivariable for accuracy, but just bear with me as an anecdote. You're 45 years old and you have asthma, right? And your friends are like, we're going to go to a barbecue and we're going to drink alcohol. We're going to drink beer. And somebody's going to get a buzz from beer. And then they decide they're going to do a shot of vodka. So they get highly intoxicated. So one thing we do know with a high level of certainty, 5 nines, that if someone takes in a large amount of alcohol, they will be more affected by a virus for sure. So if that person gets tested, maybe they don't go to the hospital, but you certainly don't go to the barbecue and have a 6-pack of beer. You're like, okay, like I'm going to take really good care of myself until maybe I do have to go to the hospital. But that knowledge may be the difference between life and death, especially for people that have pre-existing conditions. Do die from those that don't, but they're far more rare, obviously, mathematically. But that knowledge on a personal basis is huge, I think, in terms of getting accuracy and treatment as well.
Yeah, I gotcha. Now, all right. So when we go over to alt tech, we will talk about treatment protocols and other things that are being used in and around the world and so forth. But we can't go on to it here. Now,
think of everything all the time until something is proven. So
yeah, I got you.
That.
But like I myself, like you said before, have been vaccinated for everything that they could possibly vaccinate a human being for, because I've literally went all over the world in my career. So in 2020, when I had my annual physical done, I usually get it between July and September. I think I had it done in August. And I had them draw and look for antibodies for the coof. I had the antibodies and I was never sick at all.
Sure.
So I was one of those asymptomatic guys. And I really think it has something to do with all of the crazy past vaccinations and stuff I've been through.
Yeah. I think, once again, let's go back to the multivariant approach, right? Mm-hmm. So and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but there's 2 viruses that don't really cause that much reaction that are usually, children are usually exposed to. If you aren't exposed to those, and I have to go back and look at the numbers, but I think you're like 400% more likely to die from a virus if you're not. But when it comes down to is overlapping immunity, right? If you don't have exposure to something and have that B cell memory, if you have enough of overlapping immunity, your response rates can be really low. You think about like T cells, IgG, IgM, all those things that there's other things going on, and I want to go down that rabbit hole either.
I gotcha.
So number one, from a variant standpoint, you did have a lot of vaccinations. And I know that you're not anti-vax because well, you'd be dead right now. All the stuff you're exposed to in your deployments. The second part is, were you exposed to other viruses where you just got sick? And I think that's realistic to look at for sure. The third piece is, your genetic makeup. Certain genetic people, and like, you look at something, it's oversimplified, but like sickle cell, you either have those genes or you don't. My guess, and this is 100% a guess, I think that people have one or both neuropeptide Y mutations. They're going to heal faster with just about everything. So I think a virus is going to have a harder time with some of those mutations. And then, does someone go to the gym? Do they go for a walk? They take care of themselves. What's their mental state of mind going into them? So there's something called sex hormone binding globulin, which is a protein that we release, and it neutralizes all your sex hormones. If you neutralize all your sex hormones, you could have, for example, a very high level of testosterone, but functionally could be very low. So it will convert and aromatize into DHT. Eventually it will aromatize into DHT. There's a couple stops there. But modern sciences, that's one of the correlations for cancer cells metastasizing. So we're all born with cancer cells. It's a question of what makes them metastasize in our system. So, you were exposed probably. And I'm assuming that was not, the test was accurate. So you were exposed, but what made you have a lower level response? And that goes back to that multivariate approach. Whenever I read about someone saying, look, I found this smoking gun. No, I think taking care of yourself is a huge advantage, because if you look at the CDC data, and I haven't looked at this recently, but it had been 2.82 comorbidities for every COVID death. What that means is they have to pick just one cause of death. You can't have three causes of death. So
and
things
only
like
one makes the money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Only one makes the money.
Jinx.
But the flu, the cold, cancer, COPD, congestive heart failure. My understanding from the stats is that it's rare for someone to pass away just from COVID. And age had a huge impact on this as well. So if you look at a cluster diagram, it was top right with age and pre-existing conditions.
Well, the average COVID death is older than life expectancy in every country.
Well, it depends how you crunch that, right? So look at it this way. I'm going back on memory here, but I think the mean age of mortality was 81.1 here in the United States, which is kind of amazing if you think about how far we've gone in 25 years on that. And the average age of mortality for COVID, and this is before the Delta variant, by the way, was 80.9. Now,
I've actually got it right here in front of me. UK 82.5 years, Italy 86, Germany 83, Switzerland 86, Canada 86, US 78, Australia 82.
Okay.
What I remember was that the effect on COVID, the Delta, was about 3 or 4 months. And what that tells you is it affects old people far more than young people. Yeah. I think that's pretty obvious. So the other issue is when you have an R naught, people like to label a number on an R naught, which you should by comparative analysis. But obviously the R naught, the ability for a virus to transfer from person to person, is going to be much higher when the viral load can build. So the R naught in an elderly home is going to be radically higher than it is in a grade school. It's so, kind of like going back to what you said, it depends how you crunch those numbers and which demographic you want to look into. So if you think about that, going back to the comorbidity rate of 2.82, which is really high, one of the things that people should consider is if they want to avoid passing away or having long-term from COVID, and it won't block it. You're playing a numbers game, is avoid those comorbidities if at all possible. But if you have those, or you're around someone that does, just all the more reason to get tested as often as you possibly can. So you're not if you have 5 comorbidities, you probably want to head to the hospital if you have a PCR test that's positive and you're starting to show symptoms. I can't see why you wouldn't.
Okay. Interesting. Now, all right. So I don't want to ask. I have some questions I want to ask when we transfer over to the alt tech portion of the show. But like you've been really into like health and fitness for pretty much your entire life. Am I correct?
Yeah, you got through selection on Twinkies and some sort of weird preservative in your system, and I got through with nutrition and great coaching. But yeah, that's true.
Nice.
Yeah. Or, dumpster diving, whatever. You got to do what you got to do.
Fat deposits that you were able to get power from.
I got you. So my question is this. How could we possibly put this together to get the testing in front or set it up so we can get as many people out there tested if they want to get tested? What can we do to set that up?
I would imagine, and there must be a mechanism by which people email you.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the simplest thing is if someone has a business that is a certain size, or they're at a school, or their employer's looking for it. There's a general desire for it. Have them email you, and then I'll get you in touch with the people from the lab and get that done. It happens really fast. I mean, it's like a week to get the whole thing set up.
Okay.
That's really the issue, is just finding the places that have the need. And I would just say have them email you.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So I can have them what I could do is I could steer them to the redonkulas.com and then put a link that'll, take them either my email or something like that, and then I could forward it to where it needs to go so we can get people hooked up.
We can put all that together.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if it's free, why not? I mean, this could literally...
It seems like all reward and no risk. And I don't know how long this will going to, will there be free testing at infinitum?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I gotcha. But the
I think
thing is,
program is up and running.
Yep.
So I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole. And Terrence, I'm neither Republican nor Democrat.
I gotcha.
I trust no politician. I assume that there's a desire from the president administration right now to get people vaccinated. And I don't want to go into why or how or whatever, but that appears to be a mandate that they have. And I think they've been pretty vocal about that. Because this is free and it's covered by insurance and also HRSA is my understanding. So there's no gaps in it. If you're trying to get people it's like get vaccinated or tested. The groups that have testing in place, it's going to be pretty hard to repeal that. It's going to be like an entitlement. But the groups that don't have that in place, I think that's where they'll cut that off. If I was being Machiavellian, that's what I would do to force people to get vaccinated. That was my net end goal.
Yeah,
that makes
sense. Yeah, that's what I think is going on as well.
Yep.
It's absolutely insane. Like when we were in the Army back in the day, did you ever envision the world going so crazy south as it has in the past year and a half?
It's interesting. Like people become really bifurcated on politics. And I've seen people both sides of the aisle just say things that I always try to slow myself down and ask them why they think that way, because they're just saying things that are just factually remarkably incorrect, mathematically remarkably incorrect. They're saying they're following the science. Can you show me the double-blind, long-term, repeated peer-reviewed tests on that? No, I can't. What science are you talking about? The whole idea of science is if, Popp says, John, I think you're incorrect about something. He shows me that I'm correct. I say, thank you, because it helps move the ball forward. But now it seems to be remarkably bifurcated. But I will say there's been one real great thing that's come out of this is a lot of things on the business side that were relics that were going to go, it was going to be like a slow death, it would be painful for a lot of people. You're seeing them quickly go away in the space of innovation. And innovation up front can be painful. So I think what people have experienced in the last year and a half is like a forced acceleration of that sort of thing.
All right.
But
So,
the other side of innovation is always positive.
all right.
Forever.
So, hey, John, we're going to take a few-minute break here. I got to go drain the squirrel bladder.
Got to go drain the main vein, huh?
Yeah.
All right, we'll put on the deep fake. It's been a while.
John?
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you. So what we're going to do is we got some super chats we want to cover. And then we're gonna jump over to alt tech.
Allegedly.
And then we'll have you off here by 9:40, no problem.
All right, just so everybody knows, because I know there's been some confusion in the chat, just to refresh everybody's memory, we had some technical difficulties, which means that we're streaming with Streamlabs. As a result, DLive, RoxyTube, none of that's working. MGTOW.tv is not working, but Odyssey is working and Twitch is working. That's why I've been posting those links in the chat. So for people who want to jump on over and hear the real skinny, that's where we're going to be shortly. And we can start with some super chats if you are ready, good sir.
I am ready.
Patriot of the West with $20 Australian. OB gentlemen, sorry for spamming emails. I know can trust y'all with my IP. If and when I publish, I'd love to give you both a copy in person. Use this on booze if I can make an Aussie/Viking suggestion, Maxwell's Mead.
Ooh.
Nothing wrong with that.
I love me some mead.
Mead is good. Crazy Uncle. Good news and bad news tonight. Good news is MGTOW.tv must have been listening to the last stream. Been uploading since I got home. Bad news on new tech. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Forced out one with a $20 donation. We're not worthy. Booze of the night is Asahi beer from Japan.
Okay, I'll try some of that shit.
Asahi's good. Sapporo is better. Just my personal opinion. Crazy Uncle again. With all these stories of Popp shoving things down his throat, maybe a few homo suspicion points. If he eats a starburst, he is fully crossed.
Oh, God.
Well, you get shoving bread in your mouth, dumpster diving, king dongs.
Hey, man, come on. I'm starving.
I mean, I know you're not gay, but $20 is $20. Johnston Baumgartner. How much more effective do you think Rangers, Green Berets, etc. would be if powered armor and caseless ammo rifles were perfected?
I don't know. I know I tested some of the caseless ammunition on some of the platforms that they sent to us, and I did not like them. Maybe they perfected it. Not, I don't know, but I did not care for it.
Yeah, here's the problem: if you leave cases of it behind in mass amounts, like 500,000 for the Taliban,
Taliban.
there's no advantage, right?
Yeah, I got you.
It
Never.
comes down to the man. Always the man.
All right, what's the next one there?
There's the man. This one's interesting. Gorilla Bear from Canada, or Kanakistan as I call it. Hey guys, did you see the Globe and Mail article where the Canadian military admits to psyoping Canadians during EAU last year? I even brought this up right here so you can see it. Military leaders saw a pandemic as unique opportunity to test propaganda techniques on Canadians, Forces report says. A plan devised by the Canadian Joint Operations Command relied on propaganda techniques similar to those employed during the Afghanistan War.
Well, propaganda's propaganda. So I knew it was being used over here in America.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks to our former Kenyan in chief making it legal.
Yeah.
So much fail.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. Apparently, deal with it.
Yeah.
Patriot of the West again. Question. I'm 25 now, aiming to be in the ADF in 3 years, eventually transfer to the U.S. Where's a good place to go sheriff, take the oath if too old at that point to serve militarily? I like small towns, snow, hiking, and sailing.
You'd be better off like in Texas, Louisiana, and Florida.
But if you like snow,
Idaho.
not going to find a lot of that in Texas, Louisiana.
Well, in
Florida.
Idaho, Idaho would.
Oh, you are? I didn't know.
Yeah,
You
fuck.
disgusting bastard.
You son of a bitch.
I thought your ex-wife was the hoe. Allegedly.
You're going to get me
I'm gonna
sued.
get you sued. I'm sorry.
Allegedly, man.
It's all my
Come on.
fault.
Come on. Killing me. Killing me.
You're killing me, man. I don't know. Basically, take a look at the electoral map of the country and then pick a nice red state in an area that gets snow, and you'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
If you're in an area that leans blue, you might get the screw right where you poo, as long as you're not a Jew. Raw stuff with a $5 donation. Thank you, sir. Edwin Sparks, considering the side effects from my last poke, H1N1 gave me seizures. They can bite me. I just got out of the hospital from Yahoo, so I am better protected than a poked person.
All right.
That is
I'm glad you
scientifically
survived
correct.
from it.
True Blue the cat. I know this is late, but try getting nose probed with a sinus infection. Ah!
Yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, tickle it around in there. Oh! Jennifer Molesky, we miss you, baby. How you doing? Thanks for chatting. I hate what C-19 has exposed and the personalities of my countrymen.
Yep.
Amen to that.
Well, there's a lot of idiots.
Yes, there is. Dinosaur 13. Any good ways to work out with sciatic nerve issues? Always besides serious medication or surgery to deal with it?
We got to ask him.
What do you say, sir?
John, what is your opinion on trying to work out with bad sciatic issues?
So, physical therapy, great choice. Surgery, last choice. PRP, really good. Exosomes, if you can afford them, coming from the right group, and that you got to be really super careful how you source them. Make sure you go through a very qualified healthcare provider to help you with all that stuff and make that decision with that healthcare provider. But sciatic is definitely something we treat. And there's a fair amount of studies on inversion as well, but mixing all that stuff up together. One of the biggest things is like lose some weight. Having that tilt in the wrong direction, posterior tilt, is going to cause problems with sciatica for sure.
All right, cool. All right, next one.
All right, next one on the list here. Crazy Uncle. Pop, drink! Won't be able to see on Alt Tech. Yeah, I know. Bad news, I just found out that the CG is giving out Gomars to those not taking the shaft. Guess this will be how they try dishonorable discharge.
Okay, well, that's another thing that needs to be worked out. The whole Gomar thing they have in the military needs to be fixed. You literally can do nothing illegal or immoral and have a general decide, fuck you, puts a Gomar in your file, and you're done. That's fucked up. That is fucked up. Yeah, I mean, if they're going to start giving out Gomars, you're going to have to get with JAG or get an attorney that is familiar with the military system to fight that shit. But it can be done.
For those who
Terrence,
haven't been
I have a
enlisted,
question
what
about
can you
that.
just so we know, anyone who's not enlisted, what is a GOMAR?
A general GOMAR, a general officer letter of reprimand.
Okay,
It's a GOMAR.
letter of reprimand. All right. Sorry about that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so Terrence, I vaguely remember reading that if there's a law, and I'm really pulling deep from memory here, there's something like 14% of the population doesn't comply, it's unenforceable. So if you look at a freeway, the speed limit's 65 and everybody's doing 70. It would be impossible to pull everyone over, right? Everyone just kind of does it.
Yeah.
With the vaccination piece, do you think that there's a probability of that happening inside the military right now?
It is happening.
Do you think it'll go 14% then?
Well, 54% of the Marine Corps said they're not taking it.
5-4?
54%.
Wow.
Yeah. And I am getting the numbers of all of the people who dropped their retirement or who are in the retention numbers, because the way I understand it, it's once the mandates and old sock puppet Sally up at the top started doing the stupid shit, they all started dropping their retirement paperwork, and it's getting to the point where there are some units where they don't have enough people to be mission capable anymore because everyone's retiring. So
do you think that's a force, like a backdoor way to rift people?
you know what? I don't know. All I know is I have an individual at USARC, and he's looking at the numbers, and there's literally some units out there where all of the senior enlisted, all of the officers that have 20 years or more drop their packets, and all that's left behind are, they're totally fucked for being mission capable. I am trying to get those exact numbers and put it together and do a show on it, but that is the way I understand. That's how I understand it as it was explained to me.
Yeah. Yet to be. We'll see when the numbers actually come out.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting.
Now go next one.
Reasonable Monday. You guys should also do a show with Sav Says. Defend the Second Amendment and bodily autonomy. Great to see you guys. Hooah!
Amen. All right.
Amen. And that is the last of the YouTube Super Chat.
How many viewers did we have? Are we
542 current 48, sorry, and 411. Apparently Hammerhand is streaming at the same time, so we might be losing a little bit of our audience. But that's okay because Hammerhand he's going to be on the show again soon.
Yeah, and the thing I want to put together from this live stream here is I want to put together the section about the testing, and we're going to get that uploaded to as many platforms as we can.
Yes.
Because we need to get this information out there. If people want to do the testing instead of the vax, they should have the ability to do it without having to go broke.
Or even if you're vaccinated, get tested so you're not carrying it.
Yeah. That's a good one there.
All right. So I think we're all good here on YouTube. If you want to head on over to the only two other platforms that are carrying the stream tonight, I will once again put links in the chat for you guys. We're going to be over on Twitch and Odyssey. Oh, Dinosaur13 with one last chat. Anyway, to mitigate long-term effects of being on Depakote. Seeing as it is allegedly used in birth control, it royally screwed me up while I took it.
Depakote. What is Depakote, John?
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. I'm trying to think either. It's yeah, it's I don't know what that is for, so
I don't know. Oh, Depakote, epilepsy and acute bipolar mania
Dr.
treatment.
Bounty Hunter.
Okay.
Depakote or Depakote. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a medication for epilepsy, mania, and migraine headaches.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. They put me on that shit, and I couldn't stand it.
Bad news bears, huh?
No, it caused all kinds of neurological problems, and I had to get off of it.
Fun times.
Yeah, it actually fucks with your internal brain chemistry.
Lovely.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No, it doesn't sound like fun at all.
All right.
And
so,
then John Pumphrey with one last chat. Great info, guys, about testing and VAC. And Glenn Patrick Alker with a donation of $2 from Australia. Thank you very much.
follow us to Alt Tech because this shit's going to get real.
Robert Anderson says the stream is not on Odyssey. Is it screwed up? No, it's there. Sorry, bro.
No,
It's there.
FBI can't solve crimes that they didn't incite.
So, yeah, whoever said it's not on Odyssey, it's there.
Okay.
Just confirmed it for myself. Putting another link in the chat there for you guys. And we'll throw another little video up on the screen. I don't have access to my typical ones, but how about Fat Punisher?
Okay.
And now, performing another classical work, the Great Wackarotti.
Oh God, this is making me burp like a motherfucker. I'm going out.